Alrighty guys, today we're going to go over something called voltage sampling. This is going to be a fast way that you can calibrate your height control. Some things you will still want to keep consistent between how you would normally calibrate it. And one of those things being the fact that the part itself, if you look at the one that I have drawn here on the screen, it's going to have all rounded corners. It's going to be able to maintain velocity throughout the duration of the cut. The purpose of that is so that it doesn't have a abrupt stop or a deceleration and acceleration in or out of a corner. When that happens, you're going to naturally see a voltage spike as more material is moved out of that cut path. So we want to eliminate the possibility of that. So with rounded corners, it maintains that velocity. It allows us to maintain the speed, which would also keep that voltage gap consistent. And have just consistency in that voltage that we're reading on the digital readout for live volts. So notice on the screen here I have my part, it has all rounded corners, has a center circle. Both of those cuts, the circle as well as the square with rounded corners, would be perfect for doing a THC calibration. I'm going to send this over to CNC, and then I'm going to go ahead and show you up at the top left hand corner we have this, which is our torch height control on and off button. So if we toggle that off, it goes gray. We toggle it on, it goes blue. And then right next to it, you have this little dropper. It looks like a little bulb dropper. That's going to be a sampling option that you have. When you turn on sampling and turn on height control, and if you were to cut, say, this part right here, what's going to happen is you're going to click play. It's going to come, do a touch off, and execute the cut. Now it's going to, I'm going to stop it here. After it goes into the lead in and it goes from this point where it starts to cut, the actual cut profile, to about 1 inch into the cut, it has the THC turned off for that range. Even though we have it turned up off or on up at the top left hand corner, even though that's turned on, it's going to go from this point all the way over to about 1 inch or so into the cut. And it's going to have that turned off on the software side. And when you have sampling selected, it's going to gather a voltage reading from that 1 inch segment of that cut. And it's going to take whatever the live voltage is there and it's going to average it. And then it'll take whatever that average is and it'll override the voltage right here. So now a few things, or actually one thing that you'd want to make sure of still, and this is why we teach the THC calibration, you'd still want to stop the torch and just get a visual on whether or not the torch tip to the material has a 60 thousandths voltage gap. If it doesn't, so say for instance your voltage gap with that touch off sequence ends up being, the torch gap ends up being 1/8 of an inch or a 3/16 or 1/4 of an inch. If you have sampling turned on, it's going to take that voltage across that larger area, and it's actually going to maintain that, whatever that is. So if it's 1/8 inch, it's going to average that segment of the cut, but it's going to still be floating at 1/8 of an inch above the material. So you want to make sure you get a visual that you are at 60 thousandths before you turn that on. Then you can go ahead and turn on height control, turn on sampling, and just go ahead and click play. It'll do another touch off sequence from there, keep cutting, and then that'll allow it to get a good average at your 60 thousandths height. And then it's going to override, say, this 78 volts, and say it averages and it finds out that 82 is more accurate for that, for this part. So it would override the 78 to 82, and you could just leave that on for the duration of that cut. You could just let it keep cutting through a whole sequence of parts. So that's voltage sampling. We're going to go and do another one as well. It also offers that in the MyPlasm software. So we're going to cover that so that we can educate, even if you don't have the Art Pro software, you have the MyPlasm. There's an option in there that does that same functionality. They don't call it the same thing, but that is what it's doing. It's taking an average across the duration of the start of the cut, with height control turned off behind the scenes. It takes that average, it overrides that cut setting and stores that new value and maintains that throughout the duration of the cut. So thanks so much for watching, guys. If you have any questions at all, or if you have video requests, feel free to reach out to us, support@squickmons.com. If you would like to put in a video request, you can either send it to that email or you can go on our website and you can go to contact us. In that contact us form, you can just put in their video request and you can tell us exactly what you're trying to learn and do. So thanks again, and we look forward to seeing what you do with your new CNC plasma systems.